Welcome to another episode of Driving with Slip. I am the host, Brandon Baird. You can follow me on Twitter at Bairdian_slip. I am coming from softball, but the different league this time, slow pitch, not the modified. We got slow pitch, and we got the W. Team that we played wasn't full strength. We can say that maybe. But our team played pretty well, hit the ball well, and pulled out the W. I think we're going to have a doubleheader next week, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Play on Thursday for the modified, and of course you're going to get an update from that game. But let's talk about some Braves. The Braves are coming off a loss to the Seattle Mariners. I think it's a loss that very well could have been a win, but sometimes that happens in baseball, so I'm not looking too deep into it. However, this is what I am concerned about within that loss, is that our bullpen is kind of thin. Our bullpen has been worn and, utilized pretty often, and it's been in some flux a little bit. We got a couple guys that went from starting to the pen in Fuentes and Reynaldo Lopez, and right now they are unavailable to pitch back-to-back games. So that puts such a strain on them. We have a lefty that is getting paid $10 million that is absolutely washed in Aaron Bummer. I mean, it's sad to see. I thought Aaron Bummer I think he was a really good pitcher at one point, but right now, I think he can't locate. So when he's having to leave the ball over the plate, or he's leaving the ball over the plate when he's trying to locate, and he's just getting absolutely mashed. And it's not a good sign. And he's our only other lefty other than Derek Lee. And he was unavailable after pitching on Sunday. So, it seemed like Walt Weiss had to leave the rookie in just a little bit too long, and he got a little loose. He lost his location. I thought he was tired. I thought the fifth inning that he was pitching into, a very strained inning, and he just didn't have it for the sixth and ended up giving up a 3-run blast. And then you bring in Kinley, who gets a couple outs, then walks a dude, and then gives up a home run on a 3-2 pitch because he's trying not to walk somebody else. And that was the game. That was the game. The Mariners had one good inning, which was really based on the Braves not having good pitching. And they needed an extra body that could pitch. And so it just wasn't good. I don't expect there's going to be too many more games where Walt Weiss is going to have to make decisions like that, because Alex Anthopoulos is going to have to make some decisions on what the bullpen is actually going to look like. He can't keep leaving this team out to dry, and the top four pitchers of the bullpen and have the whole team depend on them for every single game. It's just not realistic. We need guys that are able to throw some innings and get outs. Payamps and Suarez are two guys that were just designated for assignment because they could not get outs. And it's like, it's one thing if you can't get outs in really high leverage situations. Not everybody's a high leverage pitcher, but these guys weren't getting outs in any situation. And that's just not feasible. So there's something that needs to change. But this is also coming into play where we have two guys right now that's in the rotation that, it's going to be trouble. I don't know how long Grant Holmes is going to be in the rotation. He has not looked good. I think he could be a really good bullpen arm, and I think he would, be better used in the bullpen. But right now, he's not going to be a guy that's going to be able to give you good starts. I think even, 40% of the time that he gets on the mound. Right now, his location is off. I think that he's leaving the ball over the plate. And I think in shorter spans within a game, I think he could be a lot better. He could focus on his fastball and his slider and using those two pitches and trying to be as effective as possible with those two pitches rather than having to, throw in a cutter, rather than having to throw in a change because he's having to, see guys 2, 3.5, 3 times through the order. He's not a guy that's looked very good third time through the order. And you've heard me before talk about, going 3 times through the order. Not many pitchers are good with that, but Grant Holmes is really bad with that. And what this also does, it puts Perez in a situation where we don't know if he's in the pen or if he's starting. He's been decent enough while he's been starting. You can't expect too much from him. If we get 4 good innings out of him, then I'm happy. Trying to push more than that, then it's like, I don't know. And he has been able to get into the 5th and I think even into the 6th inning sometimes. And that's great, but that should be the outlier. That's not what you should depend on with him. And, I said this in the past couple episodes of how the rotation in the pen needs to be stabilized. That's really it. I don't care who it is, but it just needs to be stabilized. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Even if it's the wrong answer, let it be the wrong answer. But at least stop popping people up and down. Stop, trying to rely on people that, you can't really rely on. And right now, Grant Holmes and Reynaldo Lopez cannot be relied on. I'm surprised Reynaldo Lopez is being relied on in the pen as he's throwing like 91, 92. He did get it up to 95 the other day, but goodness gracious, I don't know how he's going to be able to get people out. And that's just what it is. Right now, I'm really concerned about the pitching because you can't just depend on Sale. And right now, I think Strider is going to take a little bit more time to get back into the rhythm that he was out even in the spring. I think right now he's still working back to try to get full strength from the brace surgery that he's had. And so, it's I don't know. Thank God for Bryce Elder. I don't know what this rotation would look like if they didn't have Bryce Elder, and I'm surprised I'm saying that. I still don't know if he's good or bad. However, I do think this season he's been good, and he's almost been a sustainable good. His changeup has more drop on it and has a little bit less rotation when you look at the numbers. His sinker is looking a little bit better. He's locating it better. He has a cutter that's looking pretty good that he's able to work off his slider. So with him being able to do those and him being able to get his effectiveness more, he's able to be a little bit more dependable in that rotation like Sale is dependable. He's not a Sale pitcher, don't get me wrong, but Sale is dependable. And I think Elder is becoming dependable too. I think we need to get we need to get Strider in that dependable range where he's able to at least get into the 5th and 6th innings. Because right now, him going 3 innings, that's not going to cut it, and he knows that. As well as it's just the first start. I think his velocity is there. I think his breaking balls are there. What I think that Strider needs is just to get his location down. And I think when you talk about spring training and getting back from injury, I think when you talk about a pitcher like Strider, the location is the last thing that kind of comes. And it's what he struggled with last year until he really got into a little bit of a rhythm towards the end of the season. So I do expect him to become a dependable starter. I don't know if he's going to be a top of the rotation guy, but Strider as a dependable guy is still a good pitcher. He's a guy that I feel like you can trust, and I just hope he gets back there. It'd be really nice for him just to get back there. Now, I do want to throw this one thing out. I did a couple years ago say what he needs to do is come back, be a closer for a little bit, and then get back into starting. It's very similar to what John Smoltz did. I think that people need to depend a little bit more on that plan when people come back. I think that Shohei Ohtani should have been on that plan. I think he would have been able to come back and pitch a little bit earlier. However, Shohei Ohtani is, of course, pitching absolutely phenomenally now. I just wonder, could he have been a little bit more useful if he was able to be a relief pitcher at some points as well. All that to say, I got to look at the good, and that is the hitting. Baldwin, Olson, and Albies are still hitting out this world. Albies is tied for or lead in the league in hits. Drake Baldwin is right up there. Olson is right up there with his home runs, and I think he's leading the league in RBIs. I think right now he leads the league in WAR, at least the National League in WAR. But I do think it's the league in WAR. I don't know what Aaron Judge's WAR is right now, but Matt Olson is playing at an MVP level. And I'm not saying he's going to be the MVP, but the pace that he is on is even better than where he was in 2023, where he hit his career high 53 home runs. And it's so much fun to see. My goodness. It's so much fun to see Drake Baldwin. And he was put into the leadoff spot in the rotation when this first game at Seattle, and he's going to be in the second game, that we haven't started that at this time of recording. But the fact that he hit a leadoff home run, oh my goodness, he's just the man. And I think he's a guy that has a great eye. I think his plate coverage is really good. Baldwin is just, the season that he's having is just absolutely phenomenal. And Albies is hitting the stitches off the ball. He's hitting for power. And like I said, he's getting that strength back in that wrist. He started to get a lot of that strength back in that wrist late last season, and it's really showing with that consistency this season. I don't expect Albies to be over 300 hitter, even though he is hitting over 300 right now. However, I do expect them to have those power numbers, and he's absolutely tearing the ball off the cover, hitting from the right side. That's where his strength is. Against lefties, hitting from that right side, being a switch hitter, and the fact that he is equaling that from the left side as well, it really makes this lineup deep. Austin Riley had home runs in back-to-back games. He's starting to come around. He's starting to catch up to that fastball. He caught up to a couple fastballs yesterday, and even the day before, before the second game of the Colorado season, or series, you started to see him really start to turn on that ball. And, it's interesting. Usually you can tell when Austin Riley is on, when he is hitting oppo with power. But it seems like him being able to catch up to the fastball and pulling that is a little bit more of that sign that his swing is coming back. I think what that shows me is that he is swinging with a little bit more confidence. I think that means that he is seeing the ball a little bit better. He's being able to diagnose pitches a little bit better. He's guessing less. And oh my goodness, if Riley starts to hit like that, oh my goodness, this team is just going to keep going. Because, we still haven't talked about guys like Michael Harris and Acuna. And Harris is hitting the ball off, the stitches off the ball. Even though I think his quad is hampering him, I hope he doesn't have to go on the IL, but at some point, we can't keep fumbling around with the injury. He's being put in left today, and I think that's in order to put less strain on the quad. And, I think that's a good choice because that also gives Dom Smith a chance to be at the DH, and he really hasn't had that many plate appearances as a DH. And even though he's been really hitting the ball well as well. And so I know he's back in the lineup today. We'll see how that continues to go, and we'll see how it goes with Michael Harris in left. I think it's his first game starting in left because he's always just played in center. But it's going to be good to see. I'm hopeful that this is something that the Braves can do for a little bit as Michael Harris continues to get back, and as Ronald Acuna continues to, he's on the IL, and as he gets healthy, hopefully he's not going to have to be on the IL for longer than those 10 days. But I think it's a smart idea to put him on the IL while recovering from a hamstring injury. You don't want to aggravate that, which is, it's interesting why they don't do the same thing with Michael Harris, especially with, you got a couple guys that's carrying the lineup that you didn't really expect to carry the lineup. Not as much as they're doing. So it's just fun to see. I have no thoughts about the Hawks. They're disappointing. And, honestly, what I needed to tell them is to not slip. So same thing for y'all. Don't slip.